Have you ever looked at a neighbor's yard and thought, now that's a plant I need? Maybe it was climbing a fence with gorgeous purple blooms, or spilling over a garden bed like a lush green carpet. Here's what nobody tells you at the nursery. Some of the most beautiful, most popular plants in this country are quietly capable of cracking your foundation, invading your plumbing, and turning your peaceful yard into years of back-breaking work. This isn't about scaring you away from gardening. It's about protecting something that matters more as we get older: your time, your energy, and your home. Because the last thing any of us needs in our 60s, 70s, or 80s is a plant that turns into a decade-long project we never signed up for. Today, I'm walking you through 15 plants that look completely innocent in the garden center, and what they can actually do once they're in the ground. Some of these will surprise you. A couple of them might already be growing in your yard right now without you realizing it. Before we get started, if you find this helpful, hit that like button. It genuinely helps this video reach other folks who could use a heads up before they make an expensive mistake. And if you're new here, welcome. Consider subscribing to Seniors Wellness Roots. Every week, we share practical, plain-spoken advice to help you protect your home, your health, and your peace of mind as you enjoy your garden and your life. Now, let's get into it. 1. Running bamboo, the silent foundation cracker. Let's start with one of the biggest regrets homeowners tell us about: running bamboo. It looks elegant, grows fast, and promises instant privacy. What the tag at the store doesn't mention is what's happening underground. Running bamboo sends out thick, woody roots called rhizomes that can travel 10 to 15 feet in a single growing season. These roots are strong enough to punch through landscape fabric, crack concrete patios, and in some documented cases, work their way into building foundations. They can dive 3 feet deep and slip right under fences and property lines, which means bamboo you plant in your own yard can end up popping up in your neighbor's yard 50 feet away. Here's the part that really gets people. Even after you think you've dug it all out, a single leftover fragment the size of a fingernail can grow an entirely new plant. If you already have running bamboo, containing it requires a buried barrier at least 30 inches deep, and ongoing vigilance every single year. 2. Mint, the herb that never stays put. Mint feels harmless. It's just tea and mojitos, right? But planted directly in the ground, mint spreads through underground and above-ground runners with remarkable speed. Give it 1 season, and it'll have crept 2 feet in every direction. By year 3, it's often choked out everything else nearby. The golden rule experienced gardeners follow: mint stays in a container, always. Even then, check it regularly. It can root right through drainage holes if it touches soil. If mint has already taken over a bed, know that pulling it up usually leaves root fragments behind, which is exactly what it needs to come right back. 3. Japanese knotweed, the plant that can lower your property value. This one is serious enough that in the UK, homeowners are legally required to disclose it when selling a house, because it can affect whether buyers and mortgage lenders will even consider the property. Japanese knotweed grows roots up to 7 feet deep and 60 feet wide from a single plant, and those roots can grow right through cracks in concrete, driveways, and foundations, then expand and widen the crack as they grow. It can grow up to 4 inches in a single day during peak season. Professional removal often takes 3 to 5 years of repeated treatment. If you spot bamboo-like reddish stems and heart-shaped leaves growing aggressively near your home, it's worth getting a professional opinion sooner rather than later. Waiting rarely makes this one easier. 4. Bermuda grass, the lawn that won't respect boundaries. Bermuda grass is a wonderful, tough lawn grass in warm climates, and also one of the most persistent weeds once it escapes into flower beds and vegetable gardens. It spreads by seed, by runners along the ground, and by roots underground, and it can travel 6 feet in a single season. Any small root fragment left behind after weeding will grow back. The traits that make it a great lawn, toughness, drought tolerance, aggressive growth, are the exact traits that make it a nightmare to keep out of your flower beds. 5. English ivy, the elegant wall wrecker. English ivy looks classic, climbing a brick wall or spreading under trees. But it climbs using tiny rootlets that work into cracks in wood siding, mortar, and bark. And as those rootlets grow, they gradually pry the surface apart. On trees, mature ivy can add hundreds of pounds of extra weight to branches, making them far more likely to come down in a storm. If ivy is already climbing your house or a mature tree on your property, it's worth cutting the vines at the base and removing what you can reach. But be aware, this is a multi-year project, not a weekend one. 6. Trumpet vine. Beautiful, but not for near your house. Hummingbirds love trumpet vine, and the orange-red blooms really are stunning. But it spreads by underground runners that can pop up 30 feet from the original plant, and it climbs using rootlets strong enough to tear siding off a house and pull down gutters. Landscapers specifically warn against planting it near any structure. If you already have it established near your home, expect years of pulling new suckers from the lawn and beds nearby. 7. Wisteria. When a fairy tale vine turns on your pergola, those cascading purple blooms are genuinely magical, and the woody vines underneath them get thick and strong enough to crush a wooden pergola or arbor and girdle tree limbs to death over time. Established wisteria needs to be pruned aggressively multiple times a year, or it will use that strength against whatever it's climbing. It also self-seeds readily, so new plants can show up unexpectedly around your property. 8. Morning Glory, the cheerful vine with a long memory. Morning Glory's funnel-shaped flowers are charming, but the vines grow fast enough to smother a shrub in about a week, and they produce enormous numbers of seeds that can stay viable in the soil for decades. Even after you've pulled every vine you can see, disturbed soil often brings up a fresh batch the following year. Patience and persistence, pulling new growth before it flowers and seeds, is really the only long-term answer. If any of these sound familiar, drop a comment below and let me know. Have you dealt with one of these plants in your own yard? I read every comment, and honestly, hearing your experiences helps other viewers who might be facing the exact same thing. And if this is helpful so far, now's a great time to hit subscribe so you don't miss next week's video. We're covering practical, low-effort ways to keep your garden beautiful without it becoming a second job. Okay, let's keep going. A few of these next ones are the ones we hear about most often. 9. Tree of Heaven, the tree that poisons its competition. Tree of Heaven grows remarkably fast, but it actually releases chemicals into the soil that suppress the growth of other plants nearby, essentially working to eliminate its own competition. A single mature tree can produce hundreds of thousands of seeds, and its root system sends up new shoots dozens of feet away. Cut it down, and the roots often respond by sending up even more shoots. If you have one on your property, professional removal that treats the stump directly is usually far more effective than cutting alone. 10. Wild Morning Glory's cousin, bindweed. The deep-rooted escape artist field bindweed looks similar to morning glory, but is even more stubborn. Its roots can grow many feet deep, and pulling the vines rarely kills it, since the plant simply regrows from what's left underground. It's one of the most common reasons gardeners tell us they've tried everything, and the weed just keeps coming back. 11. Russian Olive, the tree that changes the ground beneath it. Russian olive has lovely silvery leaves and fragrant flowers, which is why it became a popular ornamental. But it changes the nitrogen levels in the soil around it in a way that favors itself and weedy plants over everything else nearby. Birds spread its berries widely, so it doesn't stay confined to where it was planted. If you're removing one, cutting it and treating the stump immediately with an appropriate herbicide is important. Otherwise, it tends to resprout. 12. Black locust. Useful wood, relentless roots. Black locust produces genuinely valuable, rot-resistant wood, which is exactly why people planted it for fence posts and erosion control for generations. The catch: it sends up root suckers dozens of feet from the parent tree, and each sucker can become its own tree. Cut one down, and it's common to see many new shoots emerge in response. It's also armed with sharp thorns, so clearing it safely often benefits from professional help, especially for those of us who want to avoid unnecessary risk of a fall or injury while doing yard work. 13. Bishop's weed, goutweed, the shady ground cover that won't share bishop's weed, is often sold as a solution for shady spots where nothing else grows, and it does that job a little too well. Its underground roots fragment easily, and literally every small piece left in the soil can grow into a new plant. What starts as a tidy patch under a tree can spread into neighboring beds within a few years. If it's already established, expect that full removal usually means digging out and sifting the soil rather than a quick pull. 14. Creeping Charlie, the lawn's quiet takeover. This low, round-leafed ground cover spreads by rooting at every point it touches the soil, and it specifically thrives in the shady, damp spots where grass already struggles. That means it tends to move in exactly where your lawn is weakest. Most common broadleaf weed killers barely affect it, which is why many lawn services charge extra to treat it specifically. It often takes more than one attempt. 15. Horsetail. The plant that's older than the dinosaur's horsetail has survived for hundreds of millions of years, and it shows. Its roots can reach 6 feet deep and are coated in a waxy layer that sheds most herbicides. It thrives especially in wet, disturbed soil, which is common near construction areas or poorly drained yards. Realistically, this is one of the toughest plants on this list to fully eliminate. Most successful approaches involve professional guidance and patience over multiple seasons rather than a single fix. So there you have it. 15 plants that look wonderful in a nursery pot or a garden magazine, but can turn into years of unexpected work, expense, or even risk to your home's foundation. The good news is that knowing what to watch for is most of the battle. If you already have one of these in your yard, you're not alone, and it's rarely too late to get it under control. It just usually takes patience, the right approach, and sometimes a call to a professional rather than trying to power through it alone. Here's what I'd love for you to do. Scroll down to the comments and tell me which one of these 15 surprised you the most, or which one you're already dealing with. Your experience might be exactly what helps another viewer feel less alone in tackling theirs. And if this video gave you something useful today, please take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to Seniors Wellness Roots. We publish new videos every week focused on practical ways to protect your home, your health, and your independence without the overwhelm. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.